The question says, I have a coworker that ignores my instant messages and then responds after 4 or 5 days with one-word answers like, okay, how can I stop being annoyed by it so much? It's a good question.
Yeah, it happens in different ways too in the workplace or with friends. And my perception is it's always nice to have validation from the tribe. We all want it. But again, I'll go back to between every event and an emotional reaction is half a second of meaning, the meaning we associated with it. And in something like this, usually the meaning that we associate with the event is I'm rejected. I'm being talked down to. I'm not getting enough respect. I'm not being acknowledged. I'm not being appreciated, which I'm not saying isn't true, but if we take that meaning, that inner voice that we've associated with the event and dissect it more, you'll find that is it your problem or is it the coworker's problem? Is it your insecurity or is it his or her insecurity? Why are they not answering 4 to 5 days? Are you really a bad person that is not worthy of being answered to for 4 to 5 days? More than likely, no. They're trying to play mind games. Whether they're busy or pretending to be busy and not being polite or courteous enough to say a full sentence instead of a one-word answer, I think that's on them. That's their problem. That's their insecurity. But us as human beings, we automatically blame ourselves. Oh, I must have done something wrong. Oh, my design must have been not good enough. They don't like my design. That's why they're saying, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So dissecting the meaning that we associate to things. And then part of that meaning improvement is also having compassion for that person. Trying to remember if that person was once a kid who had a pure heart. Trying to remember if that person ever did anything positive to you once. And that just eases the harshness that we have towards them. And this harshness is hurting us because it's harshness within us. So it's really not about them, it's about us. It's not about the coworker, it's about me. I'm the one being triggered, I'm the one being annoyed. And then also what helps me a lot is inserting in that meaning a bigger picture. That even if I have compassion, even if I feel triggered, even if I feel attacked, not respected, ignored, rejected, well, what's the bigger picture? What's the greater good? Like, how can I detach and take a step back? Not completely detach. How I can have a more zoomed out perspective on things. This way I can lead. This way I'm not only responding from my own perspective, I'm responding from a bigger perspective. So that gives me options. Usually the event happens, the emotional reaction happens, and we don't have an option. This is a fact. This is my emotional reaction. I'm annoyed. And I don't want to be annoyed, but I'm annoyed. And it feels like a fact. Once we expand that meaning between the event and the emotional reaction, then we have options. I can be annoyed. I can feel compassion. I can do the right thing. I can do another thing that can be appropriate, resourceful. I have a lot of options, and that's freedom.
Yeah, I want to add to that. This reminds me of the concept of expectations, that this person is expecting the other person to reply within a certain amount of time. They're expecting a certain answer from them. And then when they get just the word okay, they're disappointed, right? So what does that tell you? It tells you that expectations lead to disappointment when they're not met. So they always say, like, drop your expectations to, let go of your expectations to live like a happy life or whatever. I don't necessarily believe in that. I believe that you should have expectations. Like, this person here is not at fault for expecting that. You should have expectations, but you can drop the suffering or like what you're saying right now, the emotions, right? How do you deal with these emotions? So when your expectations are not met. So yeah, and this is what I call the expectations gap, when your expectations are not met.
Yeah, it sounds to me like it's the gap of what I call the meaning that we associate with it. If you have expectations, that's a meaning.
Yeah,
It should be that way.
exactly. I watched this lady talking on that about that subject on YouTube. She was mentioning that she gave an example of her kids raising her kids. She wants them to chew with their mouths closed. So yeah, she was saying that, and she was not willing to let go of this expectation, right? That's a good example of not letting go of your expectations, because if you let go of your expectations, your children is going to embarrass you in front of people or whatever. Like, it's not a good thing, right? So she's letting go of the suffering of like getting annoyed by every time they do that, and she insists of like correcting them. For the 700th time, she corrects them, right? Because it's up to her not to let go of that expectation, and it's up to her how to deal with her emotions of when it's repetitive, like when it becomes annoying, right? Like you were saying, to deal with these emotions. So yeah, and back to our example here, it depends really on your coworker, like if it's the same level or they have some kind of authority over you, or but they said coworker, so maybe you can talk to them. Well, it's up to you. Are you willing to let go of that expectation of them like taking time to respond to you with like certain answer? Or if you're not, then you can talk to them, correct them, tell them, hey, working together in alignment and all of that is important to me. So I want to bring this to your attention. When I send you something, I'm expecting you to reply within a certain amount of time because my work is relying on it. And I would appreciate if you give me a more helpful answer, a meaningful answer than just okay. That would actually add value. So this is how it's up to you to stop being annoyed by it and keep your expectations, drop the suffering, which is the annoying part, and keep correcting them. Be patient.
Communicate.
Yeah, until your expectations are met, until you fill that gap of expectations.
I like that. And also, I think it's important to say that the person may comply or they may not comply. Sometimes we can't control people.
Yes, you cannot control people. Not sometimes, you cannot control people.
Right. But what we're getting at right now is that we can absolutely control ourselves and how we react. Doesn't mean suppressing our emotion, our resentment, our annoyance. It means actually processing them in a positive way, in a healthy way.
Yes, exactly. It's what you resist persist. Since you told me that, I keep remembering.
To your example about the video that you watched about this lady who's trying to have her children chew with their mouths closed, I think that's what she did also. So she expanded the gap where the meaning was, not only am I keeping expectation and high standards for my kids' behavior, I also get annoyed when they don't meet it. So she dropped the annoyed part and she kept the expectation. And I believe she was able to do that when she detached a little bit. Because when we're up against the situation personally, we take it personally and we get annoyed. We feel fear, we feel embarrassment, and we react. We don't have options. We don't have freedom. But when we take a step back on the inside, somehow take a step back and look at a bigger picture and actually watch ourselves in there as a person, not as the person. Then we're like, okay, I'm going to do the right thing. And the right thing in my perspective is to keep encouraging my kids to behave in a better way. And also, I don't need to be so annoyed because who knows, I may have to do this 1,000 times.
King energy.
King energy, a little bit detached, a little bit big picture, a little bit greater good. And then I think the same thing with the coworker. I need to come out a little bit and communicate with him. By the way, I don't love it when you say one word answers. By the way, I don't really appreciate it when you answer 5 days later. But keep in mind that you may have to do that 1,000 times. So don't get frustrated.
It depends on how important that is to you. Like if it's really important, then it can be like thousands of times you trying to correct them until they meet your expectations. But if it's not really important, then you can drop it.
And I think the importance is better determined by the big picture, not by my own perspective, not by my own, let's say, I don't want to use the word ego, but not by my own ego. Like, oh, I'm hurt so bad, so this is really important to me. No. It's just going to hurt more. Step back, the big picture. What is best for the universe? What is best for the world? What is best for the country? What is best for the company? Right? And then what is best for me too? So you're working on all these layers. So you have so many options. What is best spiritually? What is best emotionally? What is best intellectually? What is best physically? What is best financially? And then I think that's a healthier way of determining the importance. I'm willing to say this 5,000 times, or actually, I can let it go right now. At work, I had the same problem, and actually, a coach helped me with it. I was telling them that at work, I don't like to share about my life. Especially, I don't like to share about my life coaching business because, it's kind of like in conflict, maybe, or could be perceived as in conflict with my job. So usually people, hey, how was your weekend? And then like they share. And then when somebody asks me, I don't really want to share because I did a lot of life coaching and I have nothing else to share. That's mainly it. So I was very reserved. And I was talking to the coach about it, and she helped me with that expectations thing. She said that I have expectations, that when I share what I want to share, I want their approval. But she coached me through. She didn't give me advice, because if she had given me advice, it probably wouldn't have resonated. But she was asking me questions and helping me understand myself in that aspect. She was helping me expand that gap and then be critical to that gap and how I can change it to improve my life. So basically we arrived at, what if I have no expectations of what the response is to how my weekend went? I just share what my weekend was and I feel good about it. And if they love it, they love it. And if they don't love it, I still love it. And I started doing that. And I got so much happier. And you know what? Things went fine.
Yeah, that's a good example, because in this example, you really didn't care about what they think, right? You're happy with your weekend, how you spent it, how you spent your time, and you really didn't care about what they think. You don't need validation. So yeah, here in this example, you dropped expectations completely. So there is no gap to fill. So there's no disappointment. That's good stuff.
And I like that you said that I didn't want validation, but I also got a validation that I wasn't aware of. And the validation was, I was validated by the truth. I was sharing my truth. And that was enough validation. So sometimes we're not really proud of our truths. We just want validation from the tribe. So when you let go of the validation of the tribe, you still need some kind of ground to stand upon. And what is that ground? I'm going to call it, in this situation, it was the truth. And I believe in any situation, when all else fails, when everyone's against you, where are you going to find validation? Well, I think you should find it in truth. A lot of times we can't get the validation of the tribe, especially if you're being true to yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I don't remember what was I gonna say about this.
I can keep going. You see, bro?